This is the FSF Popcast Crossover Connection bonus episode. Welcome to another FSF Popcast Crossover Connection bonus episode. Each and every week we're trying to bring you shows that we either work closely with or that we appreciate, and this is a double dipper. Jeff Dwoskin and his show, Classic Conversations with Jeff Dwoskin, has been a longtime friend and supporter of our show. Jeff has been an amazing mentor for our show over the years and has gone out of his way to help us in each and every way that he can. So we're truly going to be eternally grateful to Jeff for all that he's done for us. But on top of that, he runs an amazing show, Classic Conversations with Jeff Dwoskin. I'm a big fan. I listen each and every episode that comes out. And I strongly suggest that you guys do as well. So be sure to follow him. His notes will be down in the show information down below. And by the way, did you know that Jeff Dwoskin has a podcast? You do now.
If you're a pop culture junkie who loves TV, film, music, comedy, and other really important stuff, then you've come to the right place. Get ready and settle in for Classic Conversations, the best pop culture interviews in the world. That's right, we circled the globe so you don't have to. If you're ready to be the king of the water cooler, then you're ready for Classic Conversations with your host, Jeff Dwoskin.
All right, Jillian, thank you so much for that amazing introduction. You get the show going each and every week, and this week was no exception. Welcome, everybody, to episode 178 of Classic Conversations. As always, I am your host, Jeff Dwoskin. As the smoke begins to clear, you'll be able to see that this conversation is set to classic. My guest today is William B. Davis. That's right, William B. Davis, actor, director, author. But you know and love him as cigarette smoking man on The X-Files. If the truth is out there, we're going to find it. My conversation with William B. Davis is coming up in just a few seconds. And in these few seconds, let's shine a light on last week's episode with comedian Wendy Liebman, one of the funniest people of all time. Do not miss that amazing conversation. You'll love it. You know what else you're going to love? My conversation with William B. Davis. We talk all about his book on acting in life, directing, acting, and of course, The X-Files. Enjoy. All right, everyone, I want to introduce you to my next guest. Actor, director, author of On Acting and Life. Currently can be seen in the Amazon series Upload, but he lives in our hearts, or rather haunts our dreams, as the cigarette smoking man from The X-Files. If the truth is out there, we're going to find it. Welcome to the show, William Davis. Whoa.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you? So much to talk about, but I'm fascinated by your book and everything you've done. But the one thing that kind of caught me off guard, which is the nice thing about kind of when you dive into someone who you're going to meet, and kind of like water skiing champ.
Ah.
Love. Oh my God. I was obsessed. I watched the whole video. What got you into water skiing? And not just water skiing, champion slalom. You could do it on one ski. I can't even get up on two skis.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I water skied, as a kid on the lake in Ontario in Muskoka, and thought I was really hot stuff, but I really didn't know anything about it. And then when I went to England to study for theater, and I was working there, I'd been a real snow skier, but what am I going to do now? There are no mountains, there's no snow. So I found some water ski clubs, and it was all much more organized. And there I found out that what a slalom course was, and then I had no idea how to run it. And what a trick ski was, and I had no idea how to stand up on it, never mind turn it or do anything with it. So in the absence of snow skiing, I started to water ski. And then when I came back to Canada, I connected to water skiing in Montreal and Quebec with Clint Ward, who was the coach of the national team at the time. And just one thing has led to another, and opportunities to really work at the craft of water skiing and see what its potential was.
It's funny because when you're like, I'm preparing for something like this, it's like that just popped right out, and I'm like, completely unexpected.
Yeah, right. I know. And that I'm still skiing, I mean, I'm in my 80s and people are still a little, what? You still water ski? Yeah, still do. Not to the same level that I did even 20 years ago, but yeah, I still ski.
That's an inspiration. One ski or two skis these days?
Well, it's always one ski for slalom.
Okay, so
Well, it's pretty well one ski for figure skiing too. We call it trick skiing. I don't jump anymore, and that was on two skis when we used to jump. But I still slalom and I still do some trick skiing. So that's all on one ski. Yeah.
I know nothing about sports. So okay, I'll. Okay, right. I should have Googled what slalom.
But as you say,
meant.
there's a YouTube video of me water skiing, so people can check it out and see what it is I actually did do about 20 years ago.
Oh, it's fascinating. It's worth every second. Everyone, I'll put a link. I'm going to put a link to that in the show notes for sure. Everyone deserves to see that. Awesome. Oh, man. Awesome. So, all right, your book on acting and life, and I enjoyed it very much. Kind of broken into two parts.
Yeah.
Acting and
basically a biography memoir of my life in acting, whether it was as an actor or a director or an acting teacher. But
this is at least your second book, right? You had musings of Cigarette Smoking Man.
Yeah. Where There's Smoke.
Where There's Smoke, right?
Was the first one. Yeah. The first one really quite a personal memoir. The second is a much more professional, dealing with my life as a professional and dealing with, in a sense, a masterclass on acting.
I dove into both.
Yeah,
it was fun. Yeah. William Davis Center for Actor Studies. As an actor, what led you to want to teach and pass on?
I've always been a teacher. I remember my grade 13 teacher saying, "Wow, this Bill Davis, he's obviously a teacher." They could tell by the way I explain things in class and what. Anyway, it's always come naturally to me to communicate, I guess. Teaching of acting is fascinating because it connects you with the student and what their process is and what's going on in that life, and connects you with the material that they're trying to work with. So it's always an exploration of human life. How do we live? What do we do when we live? And how do we give expression to it? And teaching allows me, in a strange way, to do things as a director I can't do. I mean, for instance, I was an assistant director on National Theatre's of Great Britain production of Miss Julie with Maggie Smith. And Maggie Smith was doing a lot of her tricks in those rehearsals. And the director patiently took time to take those tricks away and bring her to a real truce, which was marvelous. As a teacher, though, I could just say to Maggie, you're indicating. Maggie, we have to act in a different way. We have to work differently. But you can't say that as a director. You can't say that to a working actor. They have their way of working. But to a student who wants to learn how to be a better actor, then you can dig deeper. Well, that's part of the fascination. The book leads you into a deeper exploration of what the actor does.
Do you believe anyone could be a good actor? Like, I don't believe I can dance good no matter how hard
I don't believe that. Just watch Chris Carter's tiny performance in X-Files. He's wooden, he's awkward, and he knows very well this is not his métier. No, there is such a thing as talent, and there is such a thing as, I think, as exposure. I think, exposure at an early age, as in so many activities, you learn to read well, you learn to speak well because of environment that you grew up in, whatever. So there are a lot of chance factors. Then you can teach a lot. There's quite a lot of development that can happen by learning the craft. It's the same with you're not a sports fan, so giving you sports images may not help. But listeners who know hockey may know of Connor McDavid, who is a superstar hockey player. And so many people in the whole country have trained as hard as he has, been exposed to the same things that he has, but can never reach the skill level that he has. And I think that applies to acting as well.
Sure. I totally get that.
Yeah.
See, I'm a good actor. No, I get that. That makes sense. So when you watch somebody who's an amazing actor but gives a bad performance, is that the director? Is that kind of sometimes it can be the words on the page, the way they were directed? Because you see that, right? Somebody who can win an award, and the next minute you're like, "Hey, get me out of here."
Yeah, it can definitely the director can make a difference. I notice it in the theater even more than I notice it in film, where you see an actor playing an attitude or playing a quality. You immediately think, the director wants this kind of character. And it said, you're this kind of character, so I'm going to play this kind of character. So I'm an evil man, so I'm going to play evil. And it becomes very general and unspecific. Whereas you have to find, you could be an evil character, but you have to find what makes you be an evil character. You have to find specificity of that behavior. I'm playing an evil character on upload. I didn't know I was. When it started, I thought I was a nice, friendly neighbor, but it turns out I'm not.
No one with $50 billion is a nice person.
Exactly, right.
Wait, so don't play a character. That's one of your 3 don'ts. See,
Yes,
I read the
that's
book. See, I read the book.
Yeah,
Which is part of the advice that you give, which is I'm ready to be an actor after reading the book. I'm ready to just go out there.
yeah, go for it.
No, but
Yeah.
I did think it was fascinating how you just described it, but the point of view that can take a good performance or ruin a performance if they're trying.
Yeah. And the actor themselves may have made a decision that actually doesn't work. I mean, they may have tried to track a trajectory that is not in full harmony with the text that they have to play, so that they're in conflict with the words they have to speak, or they're trying to make the words they have to speak mean something different than they actually mean. So things like that can happen. For me, one of the things that doesn't work for me, although there are actors who are brilliant at it, is to have a picture of a real person and try to imitate that person. Yeah, I mean, I just read somebody talking about descriptions of great actors and actors who have failed when they shouldn't have. And one, incidentally, Oscar-winning Meryl Streep as Margaret Thatcher. And this person said, as I said when I saw it, is that this is not Meryl Streep at her best. This is Meryl Streep showing she's a good mimic, but she's not playing a real person.
Got it. Is that the Iron Lady?
Yeah.
Okay, I get that. I totally get that. It's a good observation. And you think the director can't tell Meryl?
That I don't know. Or the director could have pushed her in that direction. Who knows? I mean, that's one of the mysteries about our business, our profession, is you really don't know what the director did. And a director could be seamless, totally unaware of the director, and they can have created something brilliant.
I loved in your book, both books, I think you tell the story is, and my kids growing up would have plays in the basement all the time, and we'd go down and their friends would come over and they would do, their made up plays. But you took that to a different level. You kind of turned that into a full-time career.
Yeah, we actually did. It's not in my book. We actually did that with my cousins. We did exactly what you're saying, and made up our own plays and invited our relatives to see them. But what's described in the book is that my cousins, who were a half a generation older, were actually running a real theater company. I mean, it was a real theater company, a summer stock company where they paid the actors and whatever. But they rehearsed in our basement before they went north for the summer. So we had actors around us all the time, and then when they needed I can't remember whether I was 10 or 11 or whatever, but a boy of that age, I was convenient. So boom, they brought me in to play that role that first year. And then after that, I played one role a summer for several years with them.
I might have got that from Where There's Smoke.
Yes, definitely in Where There's Smoke, yeah.
The X-Files is when you blew up, right? You became right?
Yeah.
The interesting thing about Cigarette Smoking Man, that character, is you were in your 50s when this happened, right?
Yeah.
Which is fair to say later than most actors find that wind, right? So, but this is great. So you're an inspiration on all levels, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
Sorry to interrupt. We got to take a quick break. But I also want to thank all of you for your support of the sponsors. When you support the sponsors, you're supporting us here at Classic Conversations, and that's how we keep the lights on. And now back to my amazing conversation with William Davis. We're about to dive into his path to the X-Files. And we're back. But I mean, you had done a lot of stuff. Dead Zone, Cutting Room Floor, first thing. We won't hold that. SCTV, I saw that as a credit. You did a kind of a voice on that. Airwolf, Look Who's Talking, It, 21 Jump Street, The Commish, MacGyver. So you were all over the place before.
Yeah, I mean, I was a working kind of contract actor. I mean, I was running my acting school at the time, and I'd had a long career as a theater director, both in England and in Quebec and in Toronto and then eventually in Vancouver. For 20 years, I didn't act at all. I was a director, acting teacher, but I didn't actually put myself out as an actor. It wasn't until I was in a moment of transition, I guess, and I got a grant to study acting teachers, because as an acting teacher, I wanted to know more what other acting teachers were doing. I thought a good way to find out was just to take their classes, not just watch them, but actually take them. And thought, oh, I can actually do this better than I thought I could. So at that point, I thought, well, I'm doing all these other things, but then I got an agent and started going out for things and gradually doing more and more work and getting larger and larger roles until I auditioned for this part with no lines called The X-Files.
When people meet you, do they assume you're this evil, conniving person? Because that character is so ingrained. Because here's what I'll say. You know who Ronnie Cox? He was in Deliverance, but he was also like the bad guy in RoboCop and in Total Recall. Played the nice guy, and then he became the bad guy. And so when I was getting ready to talk to him, just like you, it's like you have that evil character in your head, but you're like, of course, one of the nicest people ever. And so I was like, but do people like expect you to...
It's variable. I mean, I remember once early on being in an elevator and somebody just hadn't noticed who they were standing beside, and they looked at me and they cowered in fear, said, "You look like that man from the X-Files." And I said, "Well, actually, I am the man from the X-Files." And then they switched altogether and went and got their friends to all come and get autographs. But but yes, I think there was some intimidation effect in very quickly, but it very quickly goes away because I very quickly smile, and Smoking Man rarely smile. So that helped. It's curious. But the other thing that I found curious was just the reaction to being a star, or being at least sort of famous, because I've been around actors all my life. And as I say, I'd worked when I was young with Finney and Maggie Smith and some of the greats of the British theatre. So I was never overly impressed. I was always admiring. But the first time I really noticed it, I was in a electronics shop, and the server, the salesperson, was standing beside me and figured out who I was. And I think it was even before we did selfies, but he was shaking. Like he was visibly shaking to be standing beside me. I mean, what's that about, Because I've seen it often since then, that kind of a vibration that happens when you're in the face of somebody who's someone you've seen kind of up there, but not really seen them as an actual person. So that's always interesting.
I understand that feeling. I've it's something when you watch somebody on TV and it's such an indelible character, it connects. And I mean, this is X-Files in its run. It's still hugely popular, but I mean, global phenomenon. So I mean, right? So true. You're larger than life. I mean, there's a lot of famous people that at the time, I'm sure, on popular shows, but I mean, X-Files was, the lexicon, everything. It was, I mean, it's just part of culture. And it's like, you're the main bad guy.
And it was back in the day too, before the audience all got fragmented as it is now. So now, I mean, there's lots of great shows, but they're not watched by the same number of people at the same time. We had 20 million people watching it at the same time. That doesn't happen now.
No, now there's just way too much. Sometimes my friends and I were talking about a show that Julia Roberts was on, and none of us had heard of it. I'm like, how was Julia Roberts on a TV show for 10 episodes and none of us even knew it existed?
Exactly.
There was a time where that just would not have happened. Can you talk to me about I know you originally for the X-Files auditioned for a different part, but then ended up with the role that changed your life. So that's good.
And in truth, I still don't know when I did that audition. I should ask Chris sometime if he even remembers. But yes, I read for a different role, but the part that they cast me in had no lines. So maybe they were just maybe that was the part they always wanted me for, but just needed to see me do something. Or maybe I was, in fact, auditioning for the senior FBI agent and they gave me this part instead. I have no idea what their thinking was. But
I think I read, this again might have been Where They Smoke, but because I think you went a little deeper into the X-Files, but they never actually had a book. They never had a full plan.
No, exactly. Yeah, they didn't have a plan. It started off with kind of individual episodes about individual things that people believe in that are a bit weird, and imagine that they're actually true, and see where that went. And then Gillian got pregnant, so that was awkward. So what are they going to do with this pregnant Scully? And they thought, well, we'll have her abducted by aliens, and they're implanting something. Whatever. I mean, the whole kind of conspiracy, I've forgotten what we call that whole arc, developed kind of on its own. And my character developed unexpectedly. One of the authors created a great scene for me with Mulder in the second episode, and kind of they did that on their own, not really in conjunction with the so-called showrunner. So this went forward, and everybody liked it and they liked the character. And so they started to do more and more and more and more. And
You talked about how it from season to season, you kept growing, and by season 2, you're co-starring, not featuring.
yeah, right.
After acting, I know directing is probably what's really in your heart and soul, but like if now that you're acting and in this part of the timeline, are you like, oh wow? I mean, because everyone doesn't get that type of role where.
No, that's true. It was a good bit of luck, I have to admit. I mean, I'll credit myself for taking advantage of the luck when it happened, but lots of people have not been so lucky. I mean, I say that in my book about David and Gillian too. I mean, they've both gone on to fascinating careers since the X-Files in very different directions, but X-Files was a huge break for those two. They were not the only actors considered those jobs, and they got them, and off they went.
You mentioned in your first book, you enjoyed watching the evolution of the acting of David Duchovny. Is that a nice way to put it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, mileage is great for an actor. I mean, we all got better. We all did. But because I stood in corners and watched people a lot as the character, I was kind of more perhaps attuned to, and as an acting teacher, to watching how their acting was. But
during the X-File run, you're still teaching?
Yeah, I was running the acting school for quite a few years during the shooting of the X-Files. Eventually, it got too much. Eventually, the whole X-File thing was too much, and I could not run the school. I could still teach there from time to time, but the actual running of it, I had to pass on to others.
And then season 2, enough with the cigarettes, right?
Oh, yes. Well, in the first season, they said, we've got these herbal cigarettes, and we've got these real cigarettes, which would you like? And I had quit smoking 17 years earlier, so I wasn't really worried about that. And I thought, well, I'm a real actor, so I'll have real cigarettes. Oh, give me the real cigarette. So in that small role, I had a real cigarette. Then they invited me back to do another episode a few months later, and a real cigarette, another small role. And then I found myself sitting at home, wishing they would call me for that X-Files show again so I could smoke some more. And then I knew, no more of these real cigarettes. So we switched to the herbal ones after that, which are awful, but they're not addictive. No way they're addictive. We all hate them. Everybody hates them. Even the whole crew hates them, because the smell goes through the whole studio when you're smoking them.
So you actually you combated smoking during the height of took advantage of your notoriety with the Canadian Cancer Society.
Yeah, no, I did some appearances to discourage people from smoking. It was motivated further by my older brother actually died of lung cancer and from being a heavy smoker.
I'm sorry.
So it wasn't hard for me to get behind that cause. And
I'm sorry about that.
It's a long time ago now, but yeah.
So, all right. So everyone hates you because you're making them smell of herbal cigarettes.
Uh-oh. Davis is here. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Yeah. Maybe no bad guys in this episode. Chris Carter. No, it's good. All right. So now this was a Fox show, right? So I can't remember at the time how big or small Fox was. Not Fox Mulder, Fox TV.
No, it was definitely the Junior Network.
Yeah. People
have said, actually, that had it not been the Junior Network, it would never have survived. They were playing Friday night, and because they were, say, the Junior Network, not so much was expected of a show on a Friday night. It was the fans who got behind it. The whole kind of core fan built up, and it was just the early stages of the internet, and they started connecting with each other through the internet, and the whole fan base developed and got stronger and stronger. And then finally, after, I think it was 3 years before it actually went to Sunday night and actually became big stuff. Yeah, some people think that if they put that show out just like that at the beginning and got that audience, it would have stopped after just a few episodes. But because it was Fox, it kept going.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a small cult audience now, when they would probably be a little more dismissive of it.
Yeah.
But then that kind of just catapulted it. So with Jillian's pregnancy, the other side effect of that was your character gained a little more prominence as they were during that time as well.
Yeah.
The interesting thing I read is that in season 3, I read a crisis of consciousness about being on the X-Files, that potentially it was anti-science. It pushed an anti-science habit of thought. Is that something you still kind of think, or was it just at the moment?
Well, it was a very interesting situation. One of my great idols in science was Richard Dawkins, and his book, The Selfish Gene, kind of really changed how I look at life. And I'd read everything he'd ever written. And I think it was in 96, I can't remember. He gave a lecture in which he did more than criticize the X-Files. He thought the X-Files was a dangerous thing to have because it was promoting pseudoscience. As he said, that, with almost every episode, some idea was put forward of something as pseudoscientific. And Mulder supported this pseudoscientific idea and Scully supported the other. And every time Mulder won, every time the pseudoscience thing won out. And so therefore, Dawkins concluded that it would encourage people to think of the validity of pseudoscience. And yes, this was somewhat of a crisis of conscience because I was just going really well. Everything was going great. And this my hero tells me this is a bad thing. So what do I do? Well, strangely, it was interesting to me that Dawkins, his idea was purely a priori. He had no evidence. And he's a great believer on evidence. He says, I have to have evidence. Well, he had none. That it actually made people believe pseudoscience more because the people watching it knew it was a story. They knew it was fiction. It was not a documentary. Right. They knew it was fiction. Right? And as it happens, many people in the skeptical movement were great fans of the show. And I would go to conventions of X-File fans and I would ask them, well, how many of you believe, that there are aliens among us or we've been abducted by aliens? And there would be some that did, but the amount that did reflected the same proportion as in the general population from polls that people had done. And so there was no evidence that these people were more likely to believe in pseudoscience because they watched the show. And I went, I can go on doing it.
Thank goodness, right?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt this amazing conversation with William Davis. Got to take a quick break. And we're back with my amazing guest, William Davis, about to dive into how his own skepticism was received by the X-File fan base. And we're back. You mentioned skepticism. I found something that said you were challenged by fans because you didn't believe in paranormal or aliens. And so did that cause a rift with the fan base?
Only with elements, because as I say, lots of skeptics were in the fan base as well. But yes, people were surprised, not understanding how my profession works. They assumed I'd chosen to be an X-Files because I believed in these things. So they invited me to go on skywalks and we're going to see something tonight, or they would bring me the latest information on Area 51, assuming I was just anxious to know what was going on. But yeah, no, to me, it was all a story. It was all a fiction.
What?
What?
Wait a minute. And then I read your favorite episode was Talitha Kumi.
Yeah.
Is it because you made a deal to get cured of your lung cancer?
Well, yeah, that was it was actually an idea that David promoted based on a Dostoevsky book. The kind of debates that I had within that story were fascinating. With the imprisoned alien, there was kind of a level of intellectual combat that was fascinating. It was also the episode where I flirted with Mulder's mother, and we talked about her husband and how he wasn't a very good water skier, things like that.
Did you say that because of your water skiing? Did they work that little detail in?
Chris always wanted to get me actually on skis in an episode, and he kept threatening to do that. The other writers talked him out of it, apparently.
Probably because they watched Happy Days. They knew how that turned out for the Fonz, jumping the shark. Yeah.
But anyway, there's a line in that where I say something about he was a good water skier. Not as good as I was, but
right.
Not as good in some other ways, too.
You dog, you.
Yeah, one episode.
By season 4 now, you're also starring. These are the credits. This is the evolution, right? So now it's just the characters becoming bigger and bigger. And this is Musings of a Smoking Man. That episode is now this season where we get your backstory, which is fascinating. You killed JFK. You killed Martin Luther King Jr.
Maybe.
Maybe. Yeah.
Don't believe anything you see.
I believe everything I see. I know it was interesting because when I was reading some notes that you had on this, how it didn't necessarily keep in line with the current story, the backstory that had been up to that point. And
we thought of it. The fans maybe not, but we doing it thought of it as this is Froeke's idea of the smoking man. This is his idea of his story, so that we weren't beholden to that forever and ever. We didn't finally have to have the smoking man actually arrested for having assassinated president or whatever.
Got it. And then you did not want the Bills to win the Super Bowl. Do we know why that was?
Oh, I'm going to have fun with that this year. The Bills are good this year. And I have friends in northern New York State who are anxious for me to lift that curse. And every time they fail, I say, sorry, I told you.
You did say, as long as you're around, that they're not going to win. Oh, man. So now we have movies. You did the movie. Did you like doing the movies? Did you like the standalone movies? They weren't as big a hit, I think, as the show itself. But
no, the first one was better than the second, I thought.
Right.
Of course, I was in the first one and not in the second, so that may have something to do with it. It was interesting in a lot of ways because we took so much more time. There was just a lot more waiting, a lot more. So it didn't necessarily translate into better opportunities for us. But what was unfortunate for me is that I had a great scene in the movie. I think I can't remember whether it was with Skinner or who it was actually with, but it was a really good scene. And they had to take it out of the movie because when they played it to focus groups who didn't know the series, but were just watching the movie for the first time, they didn't get it. They didn't know what that scene was about. So rather than being faithful to the fans, they were faithful to the new viewer and decided they had to take that scene out. Not only did they have to take it out, they had to bring me in to play scenes that would justify taking it out. So I had to actually go and take out my own scene.
That's brutal.
Yes, yes, I know.
You think it could work the opposite way, though, too. The argument would be put something in they don't understand to get them to go
to watch this. Exactly. And of course, we made that argument, but we didn't have much influence.
So how did you feel about it dying and coming back so many times? You have a favorite death? So I have a friend, Jeff Raymond, and he's obsessed. He's hardcore all the way back.
Right.
He sent me some questions. But one of them was like diving into like all the almost dying times. As I dug into it, I realized it was every time you die in the show, they thought the show was going to be over and they were kind of wrapping it up.
Yeah.
It was written as that was the possibility. Like end of season 7, they didn't know if there was going to be a season 8. So, and Duchovny was leaving. And so they just wrote it as a potential series finale. And that sort of became the ongoing thing that they did.
No, it's true. It's true. I mean, yeah, when I was, I guess it was, season 9, when I was blown up by a cruise missile. I mean, this great scene, a missile coming at me. And I mean, anybody who's ever survived a cruise missile direct hit.
I know, William Davis.
So, who knew that there would be the reboot, So this was, 12 years later when they did the reboot and they wanted the smoking man. They needed the smoking man. So they had to bring me to life. And they had the makeup they had to put in to show me in the hospital after being hit with the missile was quite brutal. But gradually, they brought me back to life. So now they think I'm dead at the end of the reboot. I was shot and pushed in the water to drown at the end of episode 11. But I told Chris at the time, I'm not dead. That was a hologram. That wasn't me. And he went, okay. So if we ever do episode 13 or whatever it'll be, maybe I can still come to life. But I don't think it'll be anymore. But
I enjoy. Is it considered a reboot or was it just a late season? Because it didn't. All the originals were back. I enjoyed it a lot when they brought it up.
Yeah, no, you could just be a late season.
Yeah, that was one of the really good ones. So if they bring it back, they have to. Now they've established a pattern.
Yeah, right.
So they would have to.
Well, they would if Jillian would do it, I think. I mean, I think Chris Carter would like to do it. David would do it. I would do it, but Jillian's doing other stuff.
She's too busy winning awards as Margaret Thatcher and on The Crown and all that kind of stuff. Okay, the other question was, how much was David acting and how much is he just playing himself? David Duchovny.
Well, if you read my book, which you have, there's not necessarily a difference. What is that? I mean, he's making it his own. He's doing, I don't know what you would want to be different. It's a common thing that people say, oh, this actor can only play themselves, or whereas this actor can play a whole range of things. And that can be true, but you can't judge David on that because the character was similar to him. So playing from himself was true and was natural.
That works for me.
Yeah.
When you read the script, did you think for Musings of a Smoking Man, did you like go, oh, no one's going to buy me killing JFK or any of those things?
It was even more than that because there were things in that script that were, I can't remember what they were all now, but that were in conflict with what we'd already established. I mean, so something's not true, either what's in this script or what we did last season. So how do we justify that? And eventually, as I say, in our minds, we justified it by saying, well, this is Froeke's story. This isn't a great revelation with the X-File of who Cigarette Smoking Man really is. Apparently, because in their original episode, before Chris changed it, they actually had me kill Froeke. They had me actually shoot at the end of that episode and kill him. And that would have been the end of The Lone Gunman. And this was, I mean, they went on to be in far more episodes, to have a whole spin-off series of their own. I mean, all of that would have been shot dead if we played the original script that they submitted to.
Well, I'm sure he's happy you did not kill him.
Yeah.
So, question for you. Upload can't be the answer to this. We'll talk about that in a second. Besides the X-Files, like, what are the ones that you get recognized for, or are some of your favorite things that you've done besides the X-Files on TV or film?
Well, Continuum would be one, which was, I don't know how widely it was seen, but it was, a fascinating story and a fascinating role to play. And one of the beauties for us was that it was set in Canada. So I didn't have to try to sound American. I could actually sound Canadian. So we like that. So Continuum would be high on my list. A much even lesser known series was the first season of something called Robson Arms, in which I played a crotchety old guy, a little ageist, actually, because he was old. He was in his 70s. He was younger than I am now, but incapable of doing the washing or doing anything. This was with Margot Kidder in that. She was my wife. So that was fun to do.
Oh, one last X-Files thing, and then let's talk about Upload, is the last piece of trivia for X-Files that I have is you are only one of 3 actors from the X-Files that was in first episode and the final episode.
In the pilot and in the final episode. Yep. David, Jillian, and me, only 3. Yes.
I was just interviewing Loretta Swit from MASH, and the same trivia for her was her and Alan Alda in episode 1 and the final. So it's a big deal to be there the whole time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So many seasons and all that kind of stuff. So Upload. Let's talk about Upload. Let's kind of wrap it up on Upload. I've been meaning to watch it, so I started watching it because I knew we were going to talk. So I started diving into it. Now I'm hooked. I'm hooked on it.
Good.
I love it. It's such a fun show. Tell us about, I know we talked a little bit about it earlier, but tell us a little bit how you see your character. And I know you're filming season 3 right now, right?
Yeah.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
That keeps me going. I love it when there's new seasons already coming. It's good motivation to watch.
It's interesting because the way it started, or it seemed to me, it started with, yes, I was a billionaire and powerful man who's bought himself an afterlife, and quite a grand one. But I seemed to be sort of friendly. Nathan was teaching me golf, and I would go duck hunting, but it's gradually coming out that I'm a lot more insidious than that. The satire, of course, is I'm David Choke, who is David Koch or Koch. I don't know how you pronounce the
like
Koch.
A Koch brothers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's the kind of idea that it spins around, is that it's dark money carried to an extreme. We'll do anything to stay in power, and I won't tell you some of the things that you will find out eventually that I'm prepared to do to stay in power.
Well, I know you play that role well, so I'm confident. Upload for everyone listening who maybe hasn't started it yet. It's great. I just started. It's so fun. It is a
comedy. I mean, I would say it's a comedy, and it's certainly part of the comedy profile of Amazon. It's part of their.
It's satire, but it's comedy, satire, but it also deals with, dealing with the afterlife. So it's an underrooted kind of deep theme to the show that all this is built around. And the funniest, this had me rolling, was Nathan was teaching you to golf. And I think he said he just spent $20,000 to teach you to golf or something like that. And you were like, I spent more on an endangered parrot sandwich.
Yeah, I know.
I'm just like, that's when I fell in love with the show right there. I'm like, I don't even understand how someone could have thought of that.
Yeah, I know.
That is so funny. So funny. Oh, man. Oh, so that's cool. And then you're filming season 3 right now. So that's awesome. William, this has been so fun. I can't thank you enough for hanging out with me.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Let's pitch your book one more time, On Acting and Life. Get it at williambdavis.com. Great cover, by the way. Great cover.
It's interesting, too. This person who seems to be suffering under my direction at this point, we're now doing a Pinter play, and he's actually directing me, this person.
The person on the cover of the book. That's awesome. That's awesome. So williambdavis.com has a shop there. You can get autographs. You can get the book. Get it, I'm sure, at Amazon or anywhere that is found as well. Do you hang out on any of the social medias?
We do a bit, Twitter, a little Instagram, a little Facebook. Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll put links to everything so they
Great.
in the show notes. And awesome. Well, this is super fun. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I appreciate you spending this time. End scene. All right. How amazing was William B. Davis? So many great stories. Check out his website, williambdavis.com. Definitely check out Upload on Amazon Prime. It's a super fun show. Go dive into the X-Files. Tweet at us at Jeff Dwoskin Show. Let us know your favorite William B. Davis cigarette smoking man death. We're interested in hearing all about that. Check out William's book on acting and life. It's fascinating. So much William B. Davis you can pull into your life right now. Oh, what a time to be alive. All right. With the interview over, that can only mean one thing. That's right. It's time for another trending hashtag from the family of hashtags at Hashtag Roundup. Download the free, always free Hashtag Roundup app at the iTunes App Store or Google Play Store. Follow us on Twitter at Hashtag Roundup. Tweet along with us, and one day one of your tweets may show up on a future episode of Classic Conversations. Fame and fortune await you. All right, this episode's hashtag is Hashtag Rejected X-Files Plots. Of course, chosen because of our amazing X-Files conversation with William B. Davis, the cigarette-smoking man himself. These Hashtag Rejected X-File Plot tweets were put in motion by Friday Fondue, a weekly game on Hashtag Roundup. Simply create a plot, just too crazy even for the X-Files, and tweet it with Hashtag Rejected X-Files Plots. Tweet your own. Tag us at Jeff Dwoskin Show. I'll show you some Twitter love. In the meantime, enjoy these Hashtag Rejected X-Files Plots tweets. Scully goes undercover to infiltrate the UK government. Cigarette Smoky Man goes on a health kick and is now known as Nicotine Patch Man. The lone gunmen adopt a big dog and investigate tales of a local amusement park haunting. These are amazing Hashtag Rejected X-Files Plots tweets. But we're not done. They discover Gilligan's Island was a prequel to Lost. Cigarette Smoky Man tries to quit smoking, enlists the help of the lone gunman. Mulder and Scully discover aliens have taken all the missing socks. I knew it. Everyone knows Backstreet's back, all right, but where have they been? It's up to Mueller and Scully to find out. Clear why that was a Hashtag Rejected X-File Plots. Smoky Man starts smoking meth and tries to convince Mulder that he's really Florida Man, and mobile homes are really alien vessels awaiting the command to destroy Earth. I think they would have actually taken that one. Pumpkin Spice is a delivery system for mind-controlling nanobots. The Smoky Man goes cold turkey thanks to Mulder and Scully. And our final Hashtag Rejected X-File Plots tweet. Mulder and the lone gunmen start their own podcast. I bet it'd be huge. Oh, all right. Those are some amazing Hashtag Rejected X-File Plots tweets. Tweet your own. These are all retweeted at Jeff Dwoskin. Show him some Twitter love. Well, with the hashtag over and the interview over, that can only mean one thing. That's right, we have come to the end of yet another episode. Episode 178 is coming to a close. I want to thank my special guest, William B. Davis. And of course, I want to thank all of you for coming back week after week. It means the world to me, and I'll see you next time.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Classic Conversations. If you like what you heard, don't be shy and give us a follow on your favorite podcast app. Also, why not go ahead and tell all your friends about the show? You strike us as the kind of person that people listen to. Thanks in advance for spreading the word, and we'll catch you next time on Classic Conversations.